Hi, welcome to Reverse Gatekeeping. I'm Stefan, and today I want to talk to you about something that has been bugging me. I have too many miniatures, and if you have a miniature subscription and a 3D printer, you might have run into this issue as well. At some point, you have more minis than what you want. It is just hard to keep them stored, it is hard to find a place for them, and if you're in an apartment like me, you kinda don't have that much space for all of those miniatures. So today I want to address this problem and figure out a way that you can just make something efficient with your space and be intentional with your miniatures. Because here's the thing, I feel like a lot of the times I'm printing stuff that doesn't get used and it ends up collecting dust in my shelf, using space, and just feels a little frustrating to me that I don't get to use these things. So let's get into it. 3D printing subscriptions. They are honestly a great service. That's kind of what makes this problematic for me. It's because I'm not really unhappy about the goods that are being delivered. It's more about what I end up doing with the goods. So my problem is I print the stuff, I work on it. It takes time to paint them, I put effort into it, and a lot of the times those things that get used there are very specific things that get used again, and there are many things where I spend prep time, painting time, valuable hobby time, preparing, and it ends up maybe, in the best scenario, getting used once. Worst case scenario, doesn't get used at all. It just stays here in my shelf and it's just kind of a waste of space. I have limited space and I kind of want to reclaim it. This is a pile of shame. You guys who paint or print know this very well, and this has been the worst my pile of shame has been in a while, because firstly, I don't have space in my shelves anymore for anything, and secondly, a lot of the stuff I printed, I kind of don't have a use for it. It was cool in the beginning, it's always super exciting to get it, but it ends up, some of the things here have been there for 8 months. These are all of my miniatures for D&D, not including Warhammer, that are in my shelf using space. And it's quite a bit. These are the miniatures that have seen combat at least once. And these are all the miniatures that have seen combat more than twice. Not looking good. Firstly, I have noticed in my trends, as I was taking account of all my collection, I tend to print heroes a lot, because yeah, you look at the heroes, you're excited to print a hero. Heroes look generally really cool. Sometimes they are the coolest models on this month's release. They are not the use, like at the end of the day, they are not the main focus, or they aren't what I should have been focusing in. And again, another thing that I learned from my 4 years is that, yeah, you just need your party as heroes. Though they are the heroes, anything else I should have been printing should have been enemies. Second of all, larger display models. Sometimes I print larger models. I will also show some close-ups of which ones I mean. And again, wonderful sculpts. They don't get that much use. They're super specific, and I feel like they get used maybe once because it's a memorable centerpiece. If it's something like that, it doesn't get used that often. One of the good things, factions seem to be a great way to plan in a very effective way, because at the core of DMing, you can never truly guess what your players will do. So being prepared pays. We want to solve a problem. We're gonna have to put a little bit more work into it, and I feel like it would be smart if I, instead of improvising as the story goes and kind of slowly introducing things about a faction that fit, I can preemptively plan which factions are gonna have which units, and in that regard, I can spend more time workshopping, planning, idealing, just making sure I have a clear vision of what factions look like and what units I need for that faction. And if I do that from the beginning, I cannot be surprised, which is massive understatement. Your players will always find a way to surprise you, but it pays to be prepared. One of my factions, the Dark Elves, I was so happy I did this. In my campaign, they're spacefaring pirates, or a military, a spacefaring navy. And I have so many navy officers, navy crew, navy personnel for their ships, and that did wonders for me. And I ended up putting them more in the story and putting them more in combat situations because I had them ready to go. Because I knew, regardless of what was coming in the campaign, I could run my Dark Elves for any encounter I had planned. So that is kind of what has begun this. I also have demons, and demons ended up playing a bigger part in the story because I had a lot of different types of demons prepared. In my opinion, if we start planning ahead all my factions, figure out an aesthetic for them, figure out a visual language, I'm gonna be able not to only use miniatures I already own and find 3D prints that match those aesthetics, but also I'm gonna be able to modify them, customize those figures to have the things I want, and make them feel coherent. Because here, so now for my new campaign, I've already laid out the factions I want to cover. This is something you can do as well for your campaign. It is so simple, but I think, again, it pays to be prepared. I made something called a grunt, a strong, an elite, a colossus, and a boss. And in my opinion, those are all the enemy types that you are gonna need to run D&D encounters with miniatures. And again, it is the things that you're gonna find in these subscriptions. Because again, we want to keep it real. We want to keep it. It would be, in a perfect world, we could get any miniature we want, specifically for the job we want. But these people aren't here working just for us. They have to sell the miniatures. So I also took that into consideration. I looked at the subscriptions and I was like, okay, which things are being utilized? Which things are being repeated? Which things you can find in most of these ranges? The first faction we're going to take a look at are my Celestials. Now, the Celestials have been the main enemy in my campaign. They are the big bats, they have a big surveillance state, and it is seen in the eye motif here in the figures. These ones are bestiarium miniatures, and I'm super happy with them. But a lot of them have to go, so I took these figures, which I'm really happy with. I love the color scheme and the finish and vibe generally, and I went ahead and sketched my other figures that I have printed, but I have in different schemes, and these are the things that are gonna need some remastering. Now, the sketching is optional. I like doing it before I paint, just so I can see if this paint job is gonna work. As you can see, I have my miniature as a reference, and I just kind of put the colors out there, used my color wheel, use the chart that I showed you earlier in the video just to figure out which miniatures I'm even gonna consider keeping. Everything that doesn't match this simple system goes. Here you can see in the background a little bit of that chaos that is all of my miniatures that I'm drowning in, and you can see that some of my earlier Celestial paint jobs are very basic. It's just kind of this wash with yeah, it's just like speed paints, washes, really basic stuff. So now I'm just, first thing was for me the base. The bases were so lame. They were just black with a zenithal just dry brushed in gray, white, and it's just so boring, so uninspired. So first thing that had to go was the bases. I am using a very stylized base. This is clearly not the color that these things actually have, but I thought here it gave it a nice ambience. So that's what you see me doing here. I'm also wet blending it at the beginning, just so it gives you this nice transition. I'm using a lot of blues, which contrast very nicely with the other colors I picked. At the end, I just was very picky with the highlights. I went super bright with the blue, and I'm generally happy with it. And that alone is already making, as I painted all of the figures, you saw how much more cohesive they feel. So this is gonna be definitely one big thing, is most of the figures I remaster for those factions are gonna get a new basing. I'm gonna be looking at basing, and hopefully that alone will help a lot. Now I'm just covering the skin because I am, again, super unhappy with this finish. It is not very advanced. It is one of the earliest minis I've ever painted, but it's still a wonderful sculpt. I'm adding some undershading. Another super important thing I'm gonna be doing is giving all of my figures this universal shadow color. I'm gonna be adding some very important unity here. By adding the colors and letting everything have this kind of universal shading and light, they automatically look like they belong together. I went for a pink in the for the skin. It honestly doesn't scream Undead at first, but I'm just really pleased with this effect that I kind of just stumbled upon accidentally. I just feel like the colors work great, the skin looks cold and not quite alive. That's kind of what I enjoy about this. I am being very general with this. I will come back and blend it so it looks better. But yeah, I really enjoy the way this project came along as I was just stretching and making all of these miniatures become more. It just looked so much more intentional. It made so much sense, and I'm kind of confused. I never thought of doing this before, and I'm so excited to show you guys what I do with my other factions, and hopefully you can pick up a trick or two here so that your factions are also more cohesive and you need less miniatures for them. So here is the beauty shot. You can see all of them in their painted glory, and I couldn't be happier. This is all the miniatures I am keeping from my Celestial range. Everything else is gonna go. Even though they're great, this is all I need. This is all I need for running combat. This is all I really require. As a bonus series, I'm gonna be making some little dioramas for each of the factions, and I'm so excited to show you guys that as well. So if you make it this far, thank you. Thank you so much, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.